Hi there, hi there. It is August of 2023, and I am Trisha Broderick with Ignite Insight Innovation, going live again for the first Friday of each month. And actually, my schedule's really worked out. So I'm kind of liking this live on Fridays thing because it means I don't schedule myself for Fridays. And it's lovely because what I'm going to do after this is go for a walk because I just did the Lead Without Blame live with Diana and talking about rest and recovery. And I'm like, the rest of today is going to be rest and recovery. So who knows where I'm going to go with this, but that is what's in front of my future. So I'm in a great mood. I'm also coming off of Agile 2023, and it was just wonderful. Like on every level, it was just an enjoyable experience and it just fills my soul. So kudos to Agile Alliance, kudos to Emma and the programming team and everybody involved and everybody else that was there. It was a great, great year. And I was happy and fulfilled on several levels. So today's topic, I go live once a month. I actually joked and I said, I'm always talking to myself on these things. But then I had a number of people that actually at the conference were like, we love it. And I've got a good evening already from somebody. I'm wondering where you're listening in from. And so I always feel weird because I'm just like, I'm talking to myself, but I have been now told that people do listen in and engage. So I'm going to keep doing it. But I probably will also still keep having visitors as well because it's enjoyable. Not talking to my screen and looking at myself. I have to like cover my own image because, it's not enjoyable, people. But today's topic, kind of aligned with what I'm just kind of referencing there, is imposter syndrome in the relationship with power. So I got a question and I wish I could remember who asked me this question. It was a while ago and it's kind of stayed with me. And the question was, can you be powerful while having imposter syndrome, or do you have to deal with that insecurity to tap into your power? And I've thought a lot about this question in a lot of different ways. And honestly, I've kind of gone in different places with my answer on this. So I can't guarantee I won't have a different answer as I'm going into it today, but we're going to see what happens. So I wanted to start with kind of just going the definition for a second. So if I go to like Merriam-Webster's definition of imposter syndrome, and I'm just going to read this, so don't judge me for not looking at my camera for a second. A psychological condition that is characterized by persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments, accompanied by the fear of being exposed as a fraud, despite evidence of one's ongoing success. I have had imposter syndrome my entire career. A lot of it was positioned due to there was no plan B. There was no basement to go live in. There was no safety net. Being successful, making a life, being able to support my family, that rested on my shoulders and I didn't have alternatives. So I had a lot of drive and fight and fear. There wasn't a lot of teachers in my high school going, she should go to college. I was a pain in the butt for a lot of my teachers in many different ways. I was the rule breaker that I am still today, but turns out in high school, they don't really applaud that dynamic of you. And so I didn't always have a ton of support kind of saying, you're going to be successful in different ways. And it's not to say that I didn't have anybody in my life. It was just, it just wasn't an expectation to go to college, to get a career, to doing those things. My mom had like 4 jobs when I was graduating high school. She was a bus driver. She was making donuts, right? Like it was just a different way that I grew up in those things. So I think when I kept going into these things, I was one of a few females in computer science. I always wondered if I was going to be found out as a fraud, right? Like that somebody was going to burst this bubble and tell me I didn't really belong or that I couldn't stay here. And that stayed with me with those things. In addition, I had a dynamic of a narrative I was telling myself that if I kept my doubts, if I was actually challenging myself, I would make sure that I wasn't going to fail, right? And so I actually leaned into my imposter syndrome as a way of pushing myself to be successful. And that was a narrative I had told myself for the imposter syndrome for a very long time. So then the other part of the question was powerful. So let me do the Merriam-Webster definition of power. And it has a couple different components to it. It's ability to act or produce an effect, a possession of control, authority, or influence over others. And those are the two that I'm going to focus in on for this question. Okay. So if I go back to the question again, can one be powerful with imposter syndrome, or do you have to lean into the insecurity first to be powerful? My first answer to that was, I don't know. But I think that was actually my imposter syndrome coming out with that. Like my first reaction was just to be almost like, I don't know. I don't want to think about that. And I think that still comes into play for me a little bit sometimes because I don't always want to acknowledge the power that I carry. Power in terms of the effects that it has, the influence that it has, because it doesn't always have to be power in terms of a formal power dynamic. It can be an influential power dynamic. It can be a dominant power dynamic. It can be an unknown power dynamic. But I don't like owning my power. And I think that's rooted in my imposter syndrome a little bit. Owning my power would give attention to me in the sense that maybe people would think I was arrogant or bragging or going to abuse that power. And so I liked dismissing it, diminishing it, pretending it wasn't there. But it was all interrelated for me. And so I think about my career that I've had for a very long time, and I've had imposter syndrome. And I can't pretend that I didn't have power. I absolutely had power. I had power in my positions. I had power in my relationships. I had power in my results in the whether it was coding results, whether it was leadership results. I absolutely was powerful and yet didn't want to own my power. Also was still afraid that people were going to figure out I didn't know what I was doing or that it wasn't as always like completely intentional as it seemed at times. And so, yes, I think you can be powerful with imposter syndrome. And I think that I didn't lean in to all the power in good ways, all the opportunities in good ways, because I let my imposter syndrome pull away from it. And so what I mean by it is, I think about opportunities that I could have helped more with people, but I didn't want to seem arrogant, or challenges that I could have taken on much earlier that I didn't because I didn't think I belonged, right? And so yes, I could be powerful with imposter syndrome, but I do think it limited the amount of good the power could do because I was holding myself back with it as well. And I've talked about this before, but I started working a lot on trying to change that narrative for myself because I still liked the part of the narrative that I don't know all the answers, that I need to keep working hard, that I am vulnerable and nervous and have anxiety about different things. And that's just real. It's hi, I'm human, right? Just as many people are. Well, everybody's human. I meant just as many people have imposter syndrome. This is live. Just go with me. Go with me, people. Okay. But I read the Adam Grant's book called Think Again. And I really liked the term he coined in terms of confident humility, where it wasn't about knowing everything. It wasn't about being secure in everything, but it was in the sense of being confident that I don't know everything, but I can figure it out, or that I'm going to keep trying till I figure it out. And that I could be confident in the fact that of what I've accomplished, what I've done, what successes I've had, the impact and the influence that I have, the effects of the power that I have used in good ways have resulted in, and still acknowledge that all the parts of the narrative that I was nervous about or letting go of. And so I've really leaned into this confident humility And I'm finding as I am doing that, I am becoming more powerful. I'm becoming more powerful, not in a abusive way. Although everybody could argue there's the capability of that, right? But I'm becoming more powerful in opportunities that I've opened the doors for people because I feel brave enough to do it, right? I don't want to speak at your meetup unless I can name somebody else to speak. Or yes, I will be a keynote. And one of the compensation things that I want is to name somebody else to be on the program that's underrepresented, right? I am leveraging my power and I'm being confident about what I'm bringing to the table and also confident about what I'm asking for with my power to create space, to create opportunities, to create new effects that are positive, that are beneficial. I don't know if I would have asked for those things because I would have been like, oh, I should be just grateful they're asking me, and how dare I ask for more, and I don't want to take advantage of it. It's not taking advantage of it. It's leaning into the power in good ways that creates new power, creates new effects. But I had to work on that confidence to be able to do that, right? So by changing that narrative, by going more to that confident humility, I've been able to increase my power in positive ways. I've been able to increase my power in ways that I'm having this conversation live. I've always been vulnerable in talking about it, right? I've always been willing to share or to own it, but I would not have liked to have said I am powerful. Nope. Still, in fact, as I say these words right now, I feel a little sick, right? Because I think so many times we think of powerful and we think of it in the negative sense, right? And not always in the positive sense. And I'm really trying to change that because when I think of it in only the negative sense, I miss out. Others miss out. And it's just stupid. It's just stupid. And so if I lean into that definition of ability to act or produce an effect, I get to choose if that effect is positive or negative, right? But if I just walk away from that power, if I walk away from that influence, if I walk away from being willing to challenge somebody, being willing to challenge myself, then I'm leaving a lot on the table, which is only going to cause my imposter syndrome to kick back in. So I think for me, it wasn't just moving the narrative from imposter syndrome to confident humility. It was embracing a different definition of powerful than the narrative I had told myself. And really thinking of those long term over the short term to lean into that power. So back to the original question, can you be powerful with imposter syndrome? Yes, but it's limited. Do you have to work on all your insecurities to be powerful? No, clearly not. Clearly not. But I find that the more that I embrace that confident humility, the more that I embrace the benefits of being powerful in good ways, the more powerful I become for myself and for others. So I think they feed each other. And I think they benefit from each other, but they can also harm each other. And no one way for everybody, no one way for myself. And what I might need tomorrow might be different. But when I think about, and I just stop and think about the impact that the effect, going back to the definition of, right, ability to act or produce an effect, it makes me feel almost silly to say I can't recognize my successes, because then I'm doing dishonor to the people I've helped. And that is not the power I want to be using. So I don't know if this was at all beneficial. This is a rambling thing of my thoughts when it comes to this topic, but that's kind of where I've landed. I want both. I want to move towards that confident humility, and I want to move and continue to be more powerful. And I don't think there's magical answers of one before the other. I don't think there's magical answers of always getting it right. But what narratives and stories we tell ourselves determine whether we sabotage ourselves. And I've come too far to continue to sabotage myself. And I've watched other people kick butt and take names. And I don't want them sabotaging themselves anymore either. So let's start changing that narrative about what this means so that we can lean into it and continue to make a difference. So those are my thoughts. I appreciate you sticking around. Hopefully that wasn't completely, although Dylan just said random thoughts too. I like it. Dylan said, I struggle with investing in a path to become powerful for many of the reasons you have been sharing. It's good. Defensive mechanisms are hard because they're part of your human dynamic. But again, for me, changing that narrative helps me to reduce the defensiveness, right? When someone says, you've had an influence on me, you've made a difference, I also think of that now as power, which I never used to. And because I think out of power as negative, right? And now I think of it as positive, or I'm trying, let me be real. I'm trying, I'm continuing to change this narrative. And that's the journey we're all on. So thank you for listening in. If you have thoughts, let me know. I will be doing our next Lead Without Blame live on September 5th. And I do have, I'm so excited. I mean, I'm excited for all of my offerings. I shouldn't play favorites, but there is an upcoming in-person in Denver Leading Amazing Teams course that we are going to be doing in November. And so that's been posted. If you can't do the in-person, we have a virtual in September. That's an amazing class too, virtual as well. I love my in-person. Okay. I have my last impactful training and speaking course for this year is going to be in September. And my last ACSM for facilitation skills is also in October. So last couple publics that I have available. I am at a few more conferences. So check me, come join at Des Moines in September for Agile DevOps, TechWell in November for I'm doing the keynote there. I'm doing keynote actually in both of those. And I will be in Amsterdam at the Scrum Gathering, the Scrum Alliance Scrum Gathering as well. So if you see me, come say hi. I don't like just talking to myself, so please come and say hi. Otherwise, I wish you all the best and have a wonderful August.